The teaser just came out for Season 3, and the most important thing is that we're getting a new anime-only scene, as well as an extended fight between Yuta and Yuji. Because Season 3 starts right after where Season 2 left off, in Tokyo, after the Shibuya incident. So now it's overrun with curses, people are evacuating and finding out about sorcery existing. Meanwhile, Yuji is overcome with this sense of guilt for things he didn't physically do himself, that Sukuna was responsible for. So he feels this obligation to continue fighting curses and trying to protect people almost like a machine. And so, similar to how Season 2 started with this drawn-out version of the hidden inventory opening, we're getting this extra scene at the start where we can see what his routine looks like immediately following the Shibuya incident, and Yuta's process tracking him down. So if Yuji originally claps on the bridge to draw in some curses when it's still dark out, and they're about to encounter Naoya and Yuta, these shots with the red sky are when it's dawn, when you're actually able to see the sun come up and you get a sense of what life is now like in this evacuated area. We see Yuji's been going through different homes where people have been killed by curses, and now he's wiping his hands free of blood that he feels he can't get off, and that he feels he was responsible when it wasn't really his doing, because it was the curses that killed these people. But this is his routine now. There are all these places, these homes that have been evacuated, or that have been left abandoned because they're inhabitants were killed. And so Yuji's going through the city, eating the food in these places while trying to honor the people who died and prevent these curses from causing future problems. So he kind of wants to protect the city a tiny bit. So he wants to rescue any remaining survivors. He wants to kill curses so they don't cause more problems in the future. He wants to respect the people who have died and make sure they're properly treated. And he doesn't want to cause damage to the city so that people can still live in the city in the future. And he's going back and forth doing this. He called curses to fight them. He'll do so eventually later on with Choso, while he's racked with guilt, and Choso's the only one there consoling him. So the sun's just entered the sky, and it's still really early morning after dawn. But this new anime-only scene at dawn is there to show you that these are the kinds of homes he looks at. This is one of the homes he was browsing or living in, as he's just taking care of stuff the way he can. And then, more importantly, we get this moment where a larger curse flies up to this building that Itadori's inside of. Maybe Itadori was chasing that thing and wanted to fight it, and then realized there was something way too strong inside, or he doesn't want damage to happen to this vulnerable skyscraper because it would be catastrophic. So what he does is he jumps out of a single window to try to escape. Either he's running from something inside of the skyscraper, or he's running to fight that curse somewhere where it's not going to be as disastrous. But when he jumps out, whatever the reason was, we see there was a larger curse inside of that building that then stretches out to try to attack him. And then after that, that larger curse that Itadori can't necessarily handle, and you don't know whether it's because he's not strong enough or he doesn't want this entire building to collapse. You see it's taken care of because somebody slashes that entire half of the building from afar. And with this sword glint, the assumption is that it was Yuta. And then after Itadori lands, he looks around to see where that slash came from, before moving on and trying to fight curses because he can't allow himself to stop. At least that's what it looks like. Maybe he realized he was being tracked, but he might also not care. But he might be more driven by guilt here. The important part is, what's important about this scene is not only does it show the status quo of Tokyo after it was taken over by curses, and what Yuji's current routine is, as well as his mental state, it's showing the difference between him and Yuta, while also showing us Yuta's process for tracking him down. Yuta might have set that original curse after Yuji, considering it only has one arm, or that curse was known for a tracking ability and Yuta was able to borrow its tracking power to hunt him down. Either way, these curses were drawn to Yuji. Yuta used this to track him down, and when you see Yuta destroy half of the building to get at this curse inside of it, it sort of, again, ambiguously paints him as being very different from Yuji because he's willing to destroy the city, which makes him a bit more intimidating because, again, you don't know what his thought process is at first. But if you think about it, it also shows that he does care about getting rid of these curses and helping people because he is taking care of this big threat. It also shows him as a powerful force before they get into their fight, because of the fact that he's able to take out something that Yuji ran away from. But this is an interesting scene that I think we're going to get in the first episode before it switches to the Zenin clan affairs. So we get a sense of what the world is like for the third season, and then after that later in the day, but they eventually encounter each other and we get some of the fight with Naoya. The second most important detail is then with the fight itself between Yuji and Yuta. Because if you look here, they're going into different locations. This is some kind of live-action play theater, some fancy or touristy spot in Tokyo that their fight has now gone into. It's kind of like how Season 2's Shibuya arc added more detail, added more parts to the fights between characters. Now we're seeing a more drawn-out battle between Yuta and Yuji. And what's interesting about this scene is that Yuji on the ceiling is surrounded by dripping blood from a curse. So there's some kind of curse that while they're fighting, as you can see later, they're both attacking with their cursed energy. So it's showing that they both care about doing good, but it's possible because Yuji's the one being chased that it's also showing his mental state here, where while it's still ambiguous what Yuta's thinking, Yuji's at least directing the fight toward these curses because he's more concerned with doing right and making up for what he's allowed to happen than his own well-being. So he's using the fact that someone's here to execute him to channel their power into something which he sees as productive, which is getting rid of curses. So in the theater, maybe he's throwing himself at these curses so that they'll be attacked. But when they're outside, Yuji's jumping into a curse that he sees. And then you see not only is his cursed energy used to kill that curse, some of Yuta's pink energy is there as well. You can also see in this jumping scene, Yuji uses his same jumping flexibility and power to dodge Yuta, and then Yuta compensates by using his cursed energy to boost his agility. But it's that same pink energy that's then used to attack this frog curse shortly after Yuji's cursed energy shockwaves through it. So what we're seeing here is that Yuji's leading the battle in directions that takes curses out, but Yuta's also going along with it because Yuta is still on Gojo's side. And then we get into the rest of the trailer, which is more or less the same as what happens in the manga. There are some cooler locations where Maki fights the Zenin clan in the anime. Tengen's visuals look like holograms. From Tengen's point of view, we can see there are all sorts of stats. The hexagonal barrier in the back is sort of getting distorted now because of what's going on. You could see some of the cracks and the details in the back of this panel where they're no longer perfect hexagons, there's something glitching out. And you can see this image appearing of one of the Kogane as Tengen's describing the rules of the culling games. But what's interesting is that pretty much everything in this teaser is only of the first couple episodes worth of what happens. Because if this is Culling Games Part 1, and it's around the same number of episodes as Season 1 or Season 2, which is about 25, it would go into the start of the Culling Games at the very least, which means there's a lot more after what this teaser covers. So maybe we're getting more teasers soon, or it's going to leave things very open to build up anticipation for the actual season, which apparently we're getting a bit of a preview in November, and then it's going to fully start coming out in January. And that's super soon, so I'm excited for that. But it's interesting to see what they're adding for the anime in just this teaser alone, because who knows what else they'll be adding for the other arcs of this season.